All right. Now these two were bantamweights, from what I understand, and I like what I see. I like what I see. I feel like this was a above average performance for a fight card where there's 3 to 4 female fights. Above average. Above average. The opening fight was unexpected. I rated the Alexieva Dixon fight, and I anticipated this fight the most, and I was the most satisfied watching this fight. I already watched it twice. Already watched it twice. I was most satisfied with both of these fights. This one and the Cody fight against Yoder. And I didn't expect that from an Ashley Yoder or from Emily Ducote. But okay. I thought that fight had a real good pace. I thought it was a relatively fast-paced fight. There wasn't that many lulls in the action at all. That's rare for me, at least. It stood out. Maybe I'm completely delusional, but it stood out to me as a consistent in an above average way. But this fight I anticipated because both fighters have won all of their fights by stoppage. All the fights that they've won, they won by stoppage. Both of them. And I can tell. Now, I think that the judges made the right decision. The judges made the right decision. I feel like Lisboa won rounds 1, round 2, and I feel like Oliveira won 3, round 3. Simple as that. And more specifically, I feel like Lisboa won all of the first round, every minute of the first round. Lisboa. And Lisboa won the first 4 minutes of the round 2. Exactly. That's exactly how I scored it. It was a weird fight how I scored it. I don't know how other people saw it. But I gave Lisboa every minute up until the last minute of the second round. And then Ravina just spazzed out. She spazzed out. She got this superhuman strength from just nowhere. It was like she leveled up and just, had this superhuman strength. Just tossed Lisboa off her. Just like, okay, enough of this. Tossed Lisboa off her and just start spazzing out. Now, that was at the end of the round. Like I said, the last minute of the second round. So in the third round, Ravina starts teeing off on Lisboa. And I mean teeing off on her, man. Landing like superhuman hard shots where Lisboa had to go for a takedown. And for whatever reason, in the third round, Lisboa was real easy to hit. She was very easy to hit in that third round for whatever reason. It was almost like she wasn't even trying to get out the way. And I'm like, okay. But I feel like Lisboa lost every minute of the last round. So, because of that, because of how that fight unfolded, I don't feel like either of them really lost any stock in that fight. You know, first loss for her in a long time. The she broke when she was on a long win streak for MMA, and especially a long stoppage streak for, I say, MMA, and especially for women. I'm talking about Ravina. But I don't feel like she looked good enough in the latter part of that fight for me to believe that she could probably win a rematch, or she could have won a 5-round fight. So I'm saying that to say it's not out of the question that she could ever take the belt from Lisboa if Lisboa ever gets the strap, because these two might fight again. For all we know. But Lisboa, I think, is up there in age. She's not a young fighter like the other girls. A lot of these other girls are much younger than Lisboa. Not sure how old Ravena Oliveira is, but I'm about to check right now. Suffered her first loss by decision to Tainara Lisboa. Okay, and she is 26, so relatively young, so you might see a lot more of her. And if you think about it, 8 years from now, you can do a lot in 8 years, fighting wise. If you just fight twice a year, that's 16 fights. And most likely, there's a good chance that she'll still be in the UFC 16 fights from now, because she seems to have above average power. Same for Lisboa. Lisboa got good power. She got good pop, especially early. But for whatever reason, later in fights, Lisboa becomes very easy to hit. She was a lot easier to hit. But then again, Ravina was trying harder to hit her in the 3rd round. So that might be where the difference is. She was trying harder to close the distance. She started off with the Superwoman punch. Okay, she wasn't really doing that in the 1st round. She was doing a lot of moving around. Talking about Ravina, she's doing a lot of moving around. But in the 3rd round, she was making more of an effort to close distance. So that started to work for her. So what I'm saying is, let's say if they were to have a rematch, Ravina could start off that way. She could start the fight fighting that way. And she might have the upper hand. So a lot could happen. And 8 years from now, I believe Lisboa is, I don't know why I'm thinking 31. What is this? I'm thinking that Tainara Lisboa is 31. How old is she? Let me see. 32. Even that, 32. 8 years from now, Lisboa will only be 40. I mean, that's not young, but there's a lot of fighters fighting past 40. 40 plus, still fighting. So she could still be fighting. Don't know how good she'll be. But this is bantamweight. And that's good for bantamweight. That's good for bantamweight. I thought that was the best thing to happen for the bantamweight division in a long time. Maybe that's just me. That this fight, like, I've not been interested in a bantamweight fight this much in a long time. You know, it's just been like dull fight after dull fight after dull fight. I thought it was at flyweight. I made a prediction or something. I talked about it. And I was talking about it I thought it was at flyweight. And I was anticipating it at flyweight. So, you know, flyweight is already a hot division. So for it to be at bantamweight, that's good for bantamweight. That's good for bantamweight. You know, I could see that girl, Ravina, going on to still be a killer. You know, she didn't look, it wasn't that bad for her. She was getting out wrestled badly. Lisboa exposed her on the ground, I thought, like real bad. Because on the ground, Lisboa was a lot more active. Whereas Ravina was just maintaining control, you know, going for takedowns, stuff like that. Lisboa was scoring points when she had the advantage, was on top of her. Had her against the fence and whatnot. She was a lot busier. And that's what that gave Lisboa a huge advantage, point-wise, in the fight, I felt like. And it seemed like early in the fight, Ravina couldn't deal with Lisboa's speed with her hands. So she sort of panic wrestled. Yeah. And it was weird. And then later in the fight, she just suddenly believed in her hands and it was working. Is at one point, she hit her so hard, man. She didn't want to take too many more of those. She couldn't. I don't think she couldn't. I don't think anybody did. Okay? So this is what I'm saying. I don't think there's many girls who can take too many shots like that. Like the shots that Lisboa was getting hit with in that third round. I know a lot of people, they're just saying, hey, good performance, Tainara Lisboa. Hey, it was a good performance. But that other chick, you know, I always look at the winner or the loser and try to determine if they're going to be a threat too. Like I said, it's not how you lose. I mean, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you win or lose. So I'm going to look at how she lost to try to figure out whether or not she'll be a threat in the future. We all do that. We all do that. Okay, so I was impressed with what I saw in the last minute of the second round from Ravina and all of the last round. Whatever switched in her head, she better keep it switched on for the rest of her UFC career. That was very weird. Watching it, I'm like, okay, Tainara is just too much for this chick. Because she was punishing Ravina that first round in the first 4 minutes of the second round. She figured out she could keep Ravina down and free up her hands and get work done on the ground, and she stuck to it. She was punishing Ravina. It wasn't a bloody affair, but she was landing a lot of good shots. And then just out of nowhere, Ravina just levels up. It was crazy. I'm watching this. I'm like, okay, what in the world is going on? I'm like, what was she just playing around this whole fight? Because she was, Lisboa was on top of her. Lisboa was on top of her, and it's like, okay. She just like leveled up. Oh, enough of this. Tossed her off of her. Got up. Started spazzing out. And then that next round, boy started teeing off on Lisboa. Lisboa had to go for a takedown. And, I feel like she was teeing off on Lisboa to the very end. So that's what I'm saying. So who knows? Not only could she spaz out like that against her future opponents and get the upper hand. Y'all know, listen, man, anybody with above average power, women with above average power stand out in my book. That's just how it is, flat out. Anybody with power, I'm going to give you a chance. I'm going to rate you. That deserves respect. Like, I give it more respect than I give the men, because pretty much all the men got power. Power is not uncommon. One strike knockout power is not uncommon among the men. It is with the women. It looks like Ravina has one punch knockout power. But Tainara has always had a chin. But man, those were some hard shots. So I see why this girl, Ravina, has a lot of stoppages, TKO victories, KO victories. But they both seem like formidable fighters right now. And especially seeing that Ravina's only 26, she might not be in her prime yet. I think Lisboa is closer to her prime. Okay, 32 years old, a 32-year-old against a 26-year-old. That's a pretty healthy gap. So this could, and like I've been saying this for years, you start to prime. I feel like you start to prime in your early 30s for the most part. Most fighters. So, yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Now, Jennifer Maia lost. I got that fight wrong. I don't feel bad about that. Don't feel bad about that. Thought it was a pretty good fight, Can't say it was a good win for Viviane. She did kind of struggle. Sort of had to panic wrestle in moments, but we'll see what she can do. She was number 11. I think Maia was she 9 or something like that? But, yeah, good night of fights, I thought. Pretty good night of fights. I felt good, man. Even though I didn't make predictions. I know I didn't make predictions. But I felt good about tonight's card. And it lived up. Or it exceeded. I'll say exceeded. It exceeded expectations. I'll say that. The opening fight, I'm like, when they open a card, it's very easy for them to stink it up, but it's also easy for them to shine. That's what it seems like. Easy for them to shine because they're the first ones. There's nobody else to compare them to, right? You're not hit with male power and then hit with female power, right? You start off with the female power. So the first show of aggression. So I thought that helped them, being that fight was the first. I feel like it would have been a classic no matter where it would have been on the card. But the fact that it was the opening fight, I feel like helped it. I feel like it helped it. I thought it was above average. Again, maybe I'm delusional. Maybe I'm seeing things. But I thought the pace was above average. It seemed like every 2-3 seconds somebody was throwing something out there. No, it was like no wrestling, no clinching. It's just a slugfest, a striking contest. That was unexpected for me. So, okay, that was crazy. This fight, yeah, I was happy. I was rooting against Alexieva. And Dixon won. It was, I feel like, acceptable. Wasn't too bad. I don't think people were too disappointed. You know, it probably got a few thumbs down, but whatever. But this bantamweight fight, man, there was a lot of power there. And this was at 135. And I think we should appreciate that. Appreciate that something very interesting came about at 135. At least for I am. I don't care if I'm the only one celebrating it all by myself. I'm not asking other people to appreciate it along with me, okay? Right? Y'all dig whatever you want to dig. I'm just telling you what I dig. You dig? I thought Jennifer Maia looked a little more ripped than usual. Yeah, just a little bit. On the scale, before the fight, she was looking like she's getting more ripped during these fight camps. But I still thought she was out. She could easily outpoint Araujo, especially after Araujo gets a little tired. And she was a little tired in that third round. And she made her wrestling a factor. So good for her. Good for her. But she, she's just, I can't say that I think she's a threat to the champion, whoever it is. And I don't think it'll matter if it's Manon, Grazo, Shevchenko, Aaron, or maybe even Rose. They would probably all defeat Viviani, most likely. Same with Jennifer Maia, but I don't know. Jennifer Maia might beat more of them than Vivi. Because if Vivi can't wrestle you, it's like she always loses the striking, no matter who it's against. She's losing against Jennifer Maia. She's losing against Alexa Grasso. It's like everybody has an upper hand. She knocked that girl out at 135. But after that, the dominance is pretty much over. So she looked good at one point. Vivi did. I thought she looked good at one point. That in that moment at 135, and going down, at least early, she was looking good. But that style and that gas tank, boy, she was wrestling in that third round. Had she not been able to body Maia, she probably could have gotten beaten up real easy. So yeah, it is what it is. Maia was outstruck. Right. That is all for this live stream.